Turn one soul ring.
So both you guys are back at work, huh?
Yeah, I've been working throughout the whole pandemic.
Yeah, I meant physically.
Yeah, since early May, I've been in the workplace.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Back in the workplace
Yeah.
for like pretty much 2 months now.
Oh, boy, it just flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah, honestly, this whole experience is blended together. It still feels like March.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to another Magic podcast, and they were saying, these guys are from Wisconsin, and they were saying that their game stores are already allowing people to play in them at events. They hadn't been to any of their game stores, so they couldn't say specifically what measures were being taken to social distance, if any. But I know that in the United States, their numbers are a lot higher than they are here in Canada. And, you know, I don't know what the numbers are like in Wisconsin, but that seems fast. Like none of the game stores in the city that I know of are like they're open, but they're not open to their play space isn't open to players.
Yeah, they're all closed right now.
I think September is like the date people are kind of looking for.
Okay. Well, we will see. I mean, I do have a hankering to go and, you know, play Commander on a Wednesday night, but I probably have a lot more fun playing with you guys in my basement. So
Hell yeah.
we'll just keep doing that, I guess.
We'll always have that.
Yeah, we'll always have Kevin's basement. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to Turn One Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be Dexplaining Riley's Barrin Helix combo commander deck. And that's Barrin Tolarian Archmage, not original Barrin, Master Wizard. Just
You
to
wish.
be clear. Yeah, I think the flavor text is better on the original Barrin, but we can get to that if we need to. Before we get to a bit of backstory on Barrin, because I always like to do that, and Riley's deck list, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us?
Listeners can definitely find us over on Instagram at Turn One Soul Ring the Podcast. Get a hold of us directly through Gmail, Turn One Soul Ring the Podcast at gmail.com. And also, we do have everything on YouTube. So if you want to check us out over on YouTube, just type in Turn One Soul Ring the Podcast and make sure to add the podcast.
We've also switched podcast platforms from SoundCloud to Anchor FM, which by the time this episode goes public, that will have already happened. And I think we mentioned this 2 to 3 weeks ago, maybe. This shouldn't really change anything for you if you listen to the show on any platform other than Anchor. It just means that you can listen to our show on Anchor now. The only other difference is that if you were previously subscribed to our show on any platform, you'll just have to resubscribe to our new feed on whichever platform you listen to us on. So for the last couple weeks, maybe month, it's looked like we're on these platforms twice because we are. One is for SoundCloud and one is for Anchor, but when you're listening to this, there's just going to be one. So whether you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you find our show, it's essentially nothing has changed. But just in case the episode didn't download or something, it's not something that's wrong with your phone. Anyways, let's talk about Barrin. So, it keeps correcting to Barren, but it's IN on Google Docs. I have to keep
Do
fixing
you
it.
think Barrin is barren?
No, actually, because he fathered Hannah, who's on the Weatherlight crew. So no, he's good.
He also dresses very fancy, so I wouldn't call that a barren look.
But
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really loose, right? So like all those loose fitting clothes just help your boys be able to swim, and girls. Not just boys. So a little bit of backstory on Barrin. Barrin was a human wizard that was originally born during the Ice Age in the nation of Keldor, the J is silent, located on the plane of Dominaria, of course. He had an extremely high ability to manipulate magic, and as a result of this, Urza chose him to help with the defense of Dominaria against the eventual Phyrexian invasion. When Urza finally contacted Barrin, he enlisted him to serve as the headmaster of a school of wizards. That school was the newly founded Tolarian Academy. Band in Commander. This took place around 3285 AR, which is the measurement of time on Dominaria. AR stands for Argivian Reckoning, and Argiv is the country that the brothers Urza and Mishra were from originally, and the year 0 AR is the year that the brothers were born. So they represent the Argivian Reckoning. If you ever see that on Magicpedia websites, that's what that is. So while working with Urza at the Academy, the two researched time travel, most importantly, as well as many other interesting projects. But those are things that we're going to get into in more detail in some focused lore episodes we have coming down the pike in the next couple months, and we'll also get into Barrin's personal life and his ultimate fate. Spoiler alert, he dies, but this is super old lore, so if you didn't know that, sorry.
Ruined it.
Man, I do have to say right off the bat that like this backstory is way better than what we had the last deck tech with Keenan.
Yeah, Keenan. Yeah, it's like turns out he's a Bonder prodigy.
Yeah.
Holy
Who
crap.
knew? But yeah, no, Barrin sounds pretty kick-ass.
Also, the card, because I just searched Barrin on Scryfall, and the card Barrin Spite, the flavor text, it's the art is just Barrin using magic on Phyrexians, but the flavor text is only vengeance matters now, and he just looks mad. It's really good.
Nice.
And yeah, to what you said, Riley, the backstory is always going to be better on these super old characters that they bring back for core sets, which it just makes decks like this so much more fun to do.
Yeah.
Let's get to the deck list. As usual, you're going to be able to follow along as we go through the deck list by using the first link in the show notes below. Let's read Barrin. Why don't you take that for us, Riley?
Sure. So Barrin, Tolarian Archmage, is 1 blue for a 2/2. Good rate.
Yeah.
He's a legendary human wizard. When Barrin enters the battlefield, return up to one other target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. And at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent was put into your hand from the battlefield this turn, draw a card. So notably, those two abilities are separate, so you don't necessarily have to use Barrin's ability to get that second effect.
Yeah, on your own permanent.
Yeah.
And it is nice the second ability doesn't have the same restriction as the first ability, so it can just be like any kind of permanent.
Yeah, and it's like a mana war that can bounce a planeswalker as well, which is pretty dope. But of course, Barrin can't bounce himself, so you can't create those kind of loops that you could traditionally create with mana war.
So first off, I do have to say that I really love the average CMC of this deck, 2.23. Very nice.
Yeah, that with one caveat, of course. Traditionally, I'm much of a fan of budget decks. This is far from that. This is just a big thought experiment.
Well, it's not that bad. It's like rent for a month. Yeah. Like it's not, although that's low for rent, but it's not that bad. I've certainly spent more on decks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So we're gonna go through the categories as usual. And let's start with the combo as the first category before we get to that, actually, Riley, what's the goal of this deck? What are you trying to do?
Well, I think there's a bit of a spoiler in there. It is a combo based deck, so that's likely the best way you're going to win. I'm sure there's a weird world where you'd be able to beat down fairly.
That would be a long game.
There's a long synergy component of the deck, so there's a lot of value kind of ingrained into it, but at the end of the day, there's multiple paths you can take for comboing out and in winning. So
let's start with that first category, the combo. We have Banishing Knack, which is a card I had never heard of. Retraction Helix, Battered Golem, Mirren Spy, and Traxos Scourge of Krug. So yeah, Banishing Knack and Retraction Helix are somewhat similar in what they do.
They're
almost exactly
similar.
The same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They just it just for 1 blue. It's an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains tap. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand.
Yeah. So for those who are not familiar with this kind of combo, really what you're trying to do is take one of these 3 creatures, the Battered Golem, Mirren Spy, or Traxos, and target them with Banishing Knack or Retraction Helix, and then they gain this ability where they can tap, return something, and then whenever you play an artifact, whether it's entering the battlefield or casting for some, it's going to untap them. So you got this infinite loop. So if you start bouncing a 0-mana artifact, or if you have reduced a 1-mana artifact to 0 mana, then you have an infinite loop.
Yeah, it's definitely using in quotations, downside of these cards in a really cool combo way.
Yeah, so I guess what I was kind of going for is I have a Teshar Ancestors Apostle deck that uses the graveyard to do loops and combo out, and I just felt like on theme with Barrin. He cared about things coming back to your hand, so I just felt like keeping the theme of using your hand as that loop was a fitting way to combo out.
Yes, very, very flavorful. Barrin would approve.
Definitely looks like you can get there. And then I guess, like you were saying, the beatdown plan, Traxos is a 7/7 with trample. So
that is an option.
Yeah, that's a 6 turn clock right there.
Oh boy.
The next category we have here is all the mana, and we have a couple of my favorites. We have Pili Pala and Grand Architect, which together make an infinite colored mana combo.
And we'll definitely get to a few payoffs when it comes to using all the mana.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, you're gonna want that.
Wizards should do some sort of like buddy card or something with these two.
like tag team cards in Pokemon.
Yeah, because like they're always together.
Yeah, just turn them into partners with.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. They should do that. That's actually a really good idea. So the next category we have here is Ramp, and we have Everflowing Chalice, Jeweled Amulet, Lotus Petal, Mana Crypt, Mox Amber, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Mind Stone. So right there, Everflowing Chalice is something you could pour all that mana into.
Yeah, if you want more mana to make with all your mana.
Make infinite mana to make a big Everflowing Chalice to make more infinite mana.
The nice thing about Everflowing Chalice is it's one of those ramp cards that, you get down on turn 2 and it's getting you to your combo faster, and then it's a combo piece as well because you can always recast it for 0 mana.
Super nifty.
So I'm going to read Jeweled Amulet because I think it's a card that a lot of people haven't heard of. It's an artifact from Ice Age, and it costs 0. You pay 1, tap it, put a charge counter on it. Note the type of mana spent to pay this activation cost. Activate this ability only if there are no charge counters on Jeweled Amulet, and then you can tap it to remove a charge counter from Jeweled Amulet. Add 1 mana of Jeweled Amulet's last noted type. So it sounds a little funny, but basically it's like you're paying a mana, let's say a green or in this case blue mana, to put a charge counter on it that you can then exchange for a blue mana on your next turn. So this is a card I recently discovered a few months ago, and I really like it in decks like my Yison deck where or a deck like this where you want to get your commander on the battlefield on like turn 2 or 3, like as early as possible. And this extra 1 mana, ideally you play Jeweled Amulet on turn 1 and, it gets you there. Of course, in this deck, you can recast it for 0, which is really nice and synergistic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that I love the old wording on that card. It's just so wordy.
Yeah, Magic's come a long way in summarizing effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next category we have here is cantrips. We have Arkham's Astrolabe, Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain, Golden Egg, Guild Globe, Ichor Wellspring.
Good old Astrolabe.
Yeah, isn't that banned in something?
It's banned in Pauper.
It's banned in Pauper, and it's just still kind of running rampant in a few modern decks.
Yeah, it basically just turns off Blood Moon.
Yeah. And then it's cool. We got the good old new Golden Egg, the new egg, and it's actually called an egg.
Yeah, along with its best bud, Guild Globe. Yeah, I just love cantripping artifacts, especially since this deck is very much artifact based. So you can get some fun loops going with Emery, or just reduce the cost and even turn it into a combo piece that can draw you your whole deck.
Yeah, and those are also really nice because like sometimes you just need to get through the deck some other way. So being able to like bounce these back, replay them, draw more cards.
Honestly, if you didn't want to go with the snow-covered island mana base, and I wouldn't blame you, you could probably just like put like a really any other cantripping egg in its place and get rid of the Astrolabe, because that's really all the Astrolabe is here for. And you could probably argue that that's a little bit better because there's some cost-reducing effects that doesn't affect snow mana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess in a way, like, you're still going to be paying 1 for the Astrolabe, even if you have, like, a cost reducer that we'll get to later.
Okay, let's move on to the next category here. It's synergy pieces. We got 19 cards. We have Memnite, Ornithopter, Aether Spellbomb, Retract, Shrieking Drake, Crashing Drawbridge, Ethereum Sculptor, Attunement, Crystal Shard, Emery, Lurker of the Loch, Equilibrium, Foundry Inspector, Portal of Sanctuary, Rebuild, Semblance Anvil, Archaeomancer, Paradoxical Outcome, Phyrexian Metamorph, and Venser Shaper Savant. Some goodies in here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, like, Memnite and Ornithopter, just with Barrin, just is just like a card, right? Like, I mean, they're not special by any means, but they're nice synergy pieces for the combo, and just a little bit of value here.
Yeah, I have a question about Crashing Drawbridge, because you have in the description down here on Deckstats that you can steal everything. Is Crashing Drawbridge so that, like, if you steal everything, you can, and steal everybody's creatures, you can use them to then, like, give them haste and then attack? Is that the idea?
It's got a couple applications. Either it's allowing your Battered Golem effects to tap the turn that you play them, and then be able to combo from there, or if you're on the infinite token generation plan, or I guess the theft plan as well, you could give everything haste after that and swing in on that turn.
Yeah, I mean, I love Crashing Drawbridge. I think it's a super underplayed card, especially in decks and colors that don't have access to giving all their creatures haste, and especially, if you have a green deck, you don't want to pay whatever Concordant Crossroads costs.
Oh yeah, totally. This is a great, like, because it's only 2 mana as well. So it's a great colorless include just to give any deck some haste opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Attunement. What a great card for this deck. I've never seen this played in Commander, but it's perfect. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Return Attunement to its owner's hand, draw 3 cards, then discard 4 cards. That's just a great little utility piece. I
love this card. I run it in my Bant Enchantress deck, and it is so good. It is so good.
Yeah, I bet.
It just does everything you want. It's an enchantment that can bounce itself and you can replay it, and then it fills your graveyard for what is it, refurbish or what? I can't remember the card. Replenish. Yeah. So it's a great synergy piece there, and here I just felt like just the value of bouncing it to your hand with Barrin on the battlefield just sounds fun.
Yeah, it still gets you to cycle through the deck. You also have the good old Shrieking Drake, which I personally love this card.
Yeah,
it's 1 blue for a 1/1 Drake with flying. When the Drake enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. So you can literally infinitely, like, he combos with himself because he can return himself to your hand.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I also like Retract and Rebuild in any artifact deck, but especially here because you're getting, you can use them to protect your stuff, but you can also just use them to bounce everything back to your hand and play it again for value.
And then, of course, for 1 more, you have the Paradoxical Outcome, which does the same thing, but you're drawing a whole crap ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And just, like, if you guys have ever played some good old Chandelar, like, of the storm loops that you can do with Hurkyl's Recall and things like Mana Vault and Soul Ring and Mana Crypt. Yeah. So if you ever want a boost of mana, just tap those all, then retract and play them all and tap for more mana.
Yeah, it's great. So we also have, we've got more categories, and the next one is win cons. And here we have Altar of the Brood, Mirrodin Besieged, personal favorite of mine, Sai Master Thopterist, Aether Flux Reservoir, Urza Lord High Artificer, and Memnarch. I do love, like Mirrodin Besieged, I just love a good alternate win condition, but what's really unique about this card is that you're just making target opponent lose the game, which from a political perspective can be a lot more fun.
Yeah. And on the flip side, that cast to make a 1/1 mirror artifact, that's another way to win in this deck as well. So
absolutely.
It does both. It does double duty.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting in this deck, because I feel like more often the Mirren side is going to be stronger in this deck, but picking people off with the Phyrexian side is definitely fun.
Well, it really depends on where you're at in the game. Like early on in the game, if you're setting up, I could definitely see you playing the Phyrexian side and just getting that loot going, because that's a really strong ability as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like you do get the draw and discard. It's not just killing people out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so it really depends on how you're feeling.
Yeah, I see here with the with like Urza and Memnarch, those are great places to dump your infinite mana for sure.
Yeah, like I almost didn't have Urza in here, and then I just kept thinking about it and realized that Urza's still broken. So I mean, we're comboing out anyways. What's a little Urza?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You definitely need the Urza in here. It's a good include.
Like he just breaks everything. Like I can't even fathom it. Like you could have a freaking Memnite that you're looping and generate infinite mana and play your entire deck.
Yep.
Like why?
Why is he so good?
Yeah, and he's not even a planeswalker yet, and he's that good. I can't imagine what a planeswalker Urza card would be like, and a real one, not Urza Academy Headmaster or whatever that card was.
Yeah, not the silver bordered one.
And I can tell you from personal experience that with Memnarch and infinite mana, once you take everybody's stuff, including their lands, you don't have to attack into them. They just concede.
Yeah, what are they gonna do?
Well, yeah, once you take everybody's lands, it's like, well, that's the game.
That was my win con.
my win con
they're gonna
playing spells.
They're gonna play one planes and play a Clanner cleansing or Clanner cleansing, Planner cleansing.
Of course we do have the. Thought we should read the Altar of the Brood card. So it's just it's just 1 mana for this artifact, and whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. So of course, when you have the loops going. This is how you get that good old mill win.
Slow and steady, yeah.
Yeah, unless somebody's running like a Gaia's Blessing effect, then you just get sad. But I do have a couple graveyard hate pieces in here, so you might be able to set it up so that as you're milling, you can exile their graveyard with that ability on the stack.
Right. Did you say Gaia's Blessing because it's like the budget version of an Eldrazi Titan?
Yes.
It's a good card though.
Versus my $500 deck.
Yeah.
And then of course you do have the Aetherflux Reservoir just to machine gun down people as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did have fun comboing off with that in the one. I think it was our first league we did. It was
man, the card is ridiculous.
Yeah, Paradoxical Outcome,
ridiculous.
Aetherflux Reservoir, and 0 mana artifacts go into town.
Oh yeah, That's right. It seems like a long time ago. So let's move on to the next category here. It's a short one. It's tutors, and we have Spellseeker and Trinket Mage. And I think Spellseeker's a bit of a less known card and more casual metas, although it shouldn't be, but it's 2 and a blue for a 1/1 human wizard. When Spellseeker enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is just repeatable with Barrin's first ability, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can, play out Spellseeker, get your Banishing Knack, then bounce it with Barrin or some other effect that you have, and then go get a piece of protection, like, the next section that we'll be talking about.
Yeah, and the same goes for Trinket Mage. It's just an ETB tutor for an artifact with 1 or less converted mana cost. Put it into your hand. Very, very important. That's why I think Trinket Mage it's definitely my favorite, and I think in a lot of situations, I think it's the best from the perspective that you have more variety to search for, because the other ones are specific with their CMCs, and Trinket Mage is 1 or less, so you can go get artifact lands, you can go get any of the 0 mana artifacts in this deck, so it just gives you a little more latitude when searching. I really like Trinket Mage.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And like the Trinket Mage is grabbing most of the artifacts that are even in this deck, so...
Yeah.
Alrighty, protection. First up, we have Dispel, Swan Song, Arcane Denial, nice, Counterspell, Negate, Fierce Guardianship, and Mystic Confluence. Just some solid players right here.
Good old Fierce Guardianship, brand new counterspell. That's super good.
EDH staple.
Yep. And then, so obviously with the Spellseeker, we're able to grab up to 5 pieces of protection for whatever our opponents might be trying to do to stop us from getting our combo going.
Mm-hmm. And they will try to stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of the weakest points of the deck is, of course, interaction on the stack.
Alrighty, let's move on to removal. We have Tormod's Crypt, which you could go and get with Trinket Mage. Rapid Hybridization, Relic of Progenitus, Soul Guide Lantern, Reality Shift, Engulf the Shore, Flood of Tears, and Meteor Golem. I always like a nice 7-mana removal spell. And I'm not being sarcastic, I really do.
Yeah, I mean, Meteor Golem's great, and he synergizes very well within the deck. Like, I mean, you generate infinite mana and infinite means of bouncing your Meteor Golem, and you just blow up everything. So,
yeah, it's fun.
I think that's the most fun thing to do.
I must have been thinking a lot about degenerate graveyard decks when I built this deck, because there are 3 pieces of graveyard hate in this section alone. But Tormod's Crypt at least has a little bit of flexibility with infinite combo potential.
Yeah,
because this is the one. Like obviously it's one of your free ones, and then I mean also Relic of Progenitus. It does replace itself, so it's a little upside too.
Absolutely,
for sure. And Soul Guide Lantern can be an egg as well if you wanted to. It just doesn't exile everything like Progenitus does.
Yeah, God forbid they just make a functional reprint of Relic of Progenitus. Come on.
I mean, like it does hit each. Like if you sack it, it hits each opponent's graveyard. So in some ways, it's nice because you don't have to worry about your graveyard getting hit.
Yeah, so you've got like an Emery value engine going on, then that would be nice.
Yeah, you can shut down your opponents and you're still going.
Yeah. I really do like Engulf the Shore as a blue board wipe, and I really don't see it get played a ton. It's and blue always has those great instant speed board sweepers, and in this deck you're so okay, so you're gonna hit your creatures too, but it is like being in a mono blue deck like Engulf the Shore is a solid board wipe, and you're bouncing all your stuff back to your hand, which is what you want to be doing anyway.
I just realized that there's an infinite graveyard loop here. With Emery and Mirren Spy, you can just loop a 0-mana artifact or a cost reduced artifact from your graveyard.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Hey, that's sweet.
Jeez. That's pretty dope.
Okay, so the last category we have here is lands. Probably the most important category of any deck.
Everybody needs them.
We have Academy Ruins, Coral Atoll, Aboro, Palace in the Clouds, Reliquary Tower, Riptide Laboratory, Sanctum of Eternity, Seat of the Synod, and 27 snow-covered lands for Arkham's Astrolabe.
Of course, we have Aboro is always like a fun blue one,
and pretty pricey, I bet, these days.
I think it is getting up there just for what it does.
Yeah, well, it's just a nice little engine on a land for Barrin, if you're ever stuck in a pickle. But I mean, there's also ways to use like Riptide Laboratory and Sanctum of Eternity to bounce Barrin and then replay Barrin and still get a second ability because he considers himself.
That's nice.
Yeah, and they're also great forms of protection as well, obviously.
Yeah, so if you've got 6 mana.
Yeah. And more side, like Riptide Laboratory is really sweet since you can do it whenever you want compared to Eternity only being on your turn. And then also like Coral Atoll has been a card I've definitely used before, and it's nice because its downside again is just Barrin's upside. So it's a very old kind of like bounce land.
Yeah, there's a whole cycle. They were originally printed in Visions.
Yeah, you could probably get away without it. and there's definitely a handful of other utility lands that you could slot into this deck as well. It's definitely got the space for utility lands considering it's heavy artifact base. But these were just some ideas or some suggestions that I had for synergizing fairly well with Barrin's second ability.
Yep, you always want lots of room for utility lands, but I do like the abundance of basic lands, even though I don't think I've ever seen a Blood Moon or Ruination that I wasn't casting in Commander, so I've never been punished for it. I think back to basics is the worst I've had.
Yeah, I've seen a few. Yeah, I remember saving the rest of the table from... I was playing my Halar deck and saving the rest of the table from a Blood Moon, and then they turned around and killed me, which was...
They're
so
like,
cool.
Very, very kind.
Thanks for that, and see you later.
The next section we have here is how to beat this deck, and obviously you're trying to cast many spells and do lots of things in a single turn, whether it's your turn or somebody else's turn. So any kind of like rule of law or arcane laboratory effect would really put a damper on this deck, as well as like Null Rod or Stony Silence or that new one from Modern Horizons, Collector Oof, would, you can't use your artifacts. That's not fun.
Yeah, fortunately Urza helps in the face of Null Rod, but oh man, Urza's broken.
It's very powerful. Yeah.
But yeah, I think any form of interaction on the stack is gonna break up the combo. Fortunately, there's a lot of redundancy, like from my perspective.
Right. Yeah.
And Barrin, of course, can create a bit of a value engine himself, drawing you a card a turn, basically. So it's not the end of the world if it gets broken up, but that's definitely the best opportunity to interact with it.
Yeah, I think if you have some instant speed, even just like artifact removal and stuff like that, can really break up what you're trying to do.
Yeah, Croson Grip would probably sour my mood.
Just a little bit.
What a great card. Before we wrap things up today, Eric and I have a few cards. I actually only have one card that we might want to add to this deck to try to make it more consistent and reliable. The first thing I kind of want to say is that you only have 34, or you have 34 lands in this deck, and your mana curve is very low. And, you could, I might, if it were me, even take out a couple of basic islands, maybe one basic island, drop the land count to 33 and put in like one more piece of, like 0 or 1 CMC ramp. That's just like a very minor thing. And especially with the way the mulligan is now, I think you just have more latitude. And I'm always a little devil may care with my land count. You guys know that. But anyways, Eric, do you want to start with any honorable mentions you have for this deck?
Mostly I have a few that are just more like discussion pieces, because I actually think this deck is quite tight. And
me too, yeah.
Yeah, and so like it's definitely doing what it wants to do very well. Deck is already expensive, so why not throw in a Force of Will?
Yeah. That's fair.
And then even Force of Negation, I think, is still a good card as well. Because sometimes people do have some sort of board wipe or some sort of other spotted removal on their turns, and you can still get that free counter spell value. So,
yeah, good call for sure.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, probably take out a couple lands and slot those in.
Yeah, why not? They're free anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I might try slotting an Unsubstantiate into this deck, because it acts as a removal spell. It does essentially the same thing that Venser does, except it only hits creatures instead of casting a broader net like Venser and permanents and spells. But it's a removal spell, and it's a way to trigger Barrin's second ability. And it's just 1 in a blue.
What does it do again?
Unsubstantiate. Let me just pull it up on Scryfall. It's from Eldritch Moon. I think it just got a reprint. Yeah, in Core 2021. It's 1 in a blue for return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. So you could return a spell on the stack. Or just bounce Ornithopter, draw a card.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's kind of like, it's like a remand that doesn't care about things that can't be countered. So
That too, yeah, it is good for that.
Exactly. You did kind of mention this, but I think one of the other good utility lands would probably be the Mystic Sanctuary.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, getting back your spells, and then if we're able to easily bounce lands as well, we can just keep getting back the spells that we're casting. So
yeah, it's another broken card. I feel like that's like right up there with Urza.
Especially because there's so many basics in the deck. Like this should be coming in untapped.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Just
you're not really gonna have any trouble with that.
Mystic Sanctuary into like a Coral Atoll.
Oh my god.
So, Eric, you touched on this, the cost of the deck. So, like we said at the top of the show on Deckstats, it's just over $500 USD. But if you wanted to build it and wanted to save some money, you could forgo adding a Mana Crypt, which is about 150 USD right now at like the height. But, it's going to get reprinted in Double Masters, so it's probably going to drop down to like 100 and like, what's
Honestly,
$100, right?
I bet there's a way to build this budget.
Oh,
for
no
sure.
doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I might even challenge myself to see how low I can bring it.
Yeah, and like you said, like the snow-covered islands are in here for the astrolabe, and if you swapped those out for regular islands, those are essentially free, right? Like we all have a box with 27 islands in them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's another real cost. Like of the snow-covered lands, the islands are the most expensive, even though they were reprinted not that long ago in Modern Horizons. All right, do we have any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Yeah, just another. I don't think it like needs to go in the deck, but a little fun card that I like is Nevermaker. And so this is 3 of anything in a blue for a 2/3 flying elemental. But the cool part about it is that whenever Nevermaker leaves play, put target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library. So
that's dirty.
It's a little dirty, yeah. So it can really end up setting your opponents back. And in a deck that has all this bouncing ability in it, it can be really funny to hose people with that.
Yeah, it also has Evoke for 3 and a blue, so same cost. Yeah, I used to run this in my Brago deck. It was pretty nasty there.
Yeah, it's because you're setting people back. They have to like redraw what they've already played.
Definitely. Just make sure it's not a. I was gonna say miracle card, but none of those are permanent, so that's silly. All right, well, this is a super cool deck, Riley. I'm always delighted when you build a deck, and we're gonna have the link to this deck in the show notes, like we said, so you can go and check that out and build it on a budget if you want to.
Right arm.
So with that, we're gonna bring this episode to a close. We will be back next week with some Jumpstart content. And in addition to the link for this deck tech, you can find the links to all of our Deckstats accounts, which contain all the deck lists we've created for the show. And I should take a page out of Eric's book and actually create a separate folder that are just decks from episodes with the episode numbers, because it looks, Eric, your Deckstats account looks pretty good.
Oh, well, thank you.
Nice.
And thank you all for listening, and thank you to our editor Ainsley. And if you want to get in touch with Riley or myself on social media, you can find me at Command Beacon on Instagram, and you can find Riley where?
You can find me on Twitter at RilesDayton, or you can find me on Instagram at Riley_Dayton.
All right, sounds good. And we'll talk to everybody later. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Goodbye.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.